See, the thing is that you have I think a notice came on where it lets people know that they're recording or they're coming into a recorded chat room. So there's that element of surprise is gone, I feel now.
But if we're rolling before we let them into the room, when they come into the room, is it like, yo, by the way, they're recording?
I think so. It doesn't say, but I think so.
A dialog box pops up. You can't just have just a general, release at the front when I enter the room where it's just like, oh,
we can't have like a wide area.
Yeah, like no wide areas. Yeah, actually, this is 2023. You need actual consent.
Yes, consent for everything.
For everything.
Well, it's good to see you, man.
Good to see you guys. How have you been?
You look very festive with that shirt.
No, you're all Hawaii.
Yeah. And you were
because it's been like 60 degrees in LA that I have to dress like I have to bring the sunshine in because I don't know what's going on this year, but it's not fun.
You are a ray of sunshine. It's working, I think.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
It rained a lot, right? You had most of the rain. We had nothing.
I've been out here for it's literally gonna be 20 years this September, and it has rained the most here that it has ever rained since I've been out here. Like,
really? Well, you guys need it.
Here's the thing: do we need it? Absolutely, but do we want it? No.
That sounds very LA. That sounds very Californian.
I mean, the rain for how long? And now it's too much rain now. Ugh, too much rain, right?
So LA, bro.
The joke out here is that, listen, we pay a premium with our rent for sunshine, not for rain and clouds. And like, we don't care that things are green. We can ship water in from somewhere else. We're fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. New York water.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. You guys ready to get started? Let's get started. All right. So this is Open Walkie. I'm Jeff. That's Rags. And today we have Corey.
Corey Hogan.
Associate Director, DGA. He's out in LA with his festive shirt. We're going to talk about him. And yeah, Corey, what's going on with you?
Talking about me. I mean, this is pretty much my dream, just to have a captive audience, just to talk about me for about an hour.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, the floor is yours. So yeah, tell us everything, dude, from the start.
Yeah.
The start, I actually kind of fell into to the industry. I originally moved out born and raised in New York, came out to LA in 2003. My first plan was to come out here to LA, go to school. I went to the Groundlings improv school, graduate the Groundlings, and then move back to New York and do theater.
Shit.
Yeah. So that lasted about probably the first 6 months that I was out here. I was like, yeah, I'm never leaving. I'm never leaving.
You never look back. You're one of those New Yorkers that left and never looked back, huh?
One of those New Yorkers that when I would come back home and I was like, yeah, so when you moving back? When you coming back? And you're like, soon,
yeah.
Probably.
Working on it.
Soon, And, friends like Rags were just like, oh, this is the worst New York stupid people over here. Hey, where are you coming back? I'm like, and that's exactly why I'm not coming back.
Because it's so sunny over here. Is that why?
Yep. That's it. That's exactly it. And I kind of fell into the industry. Of course, I wanted to be in front of camera or at the beginning in theater, performing in some way or fashion. And through my trials and tribulations of trying to be an actor, kind of realized that I didn't really fit into any molds. And we all know that casting loves molds. You have to look like this or act like this or be this physical shape or this nationality. And I never really fit into one specific thing to be cast. So through that, I kind of fell into voiceover work because it didn't matter what age you were, what size you were, what height you were, what nationality you were, what sexual orientation you were. If you sounded a certain way, you would be booked for that thing.
Well, when you were trying to get cast and stuff like that, what do you think they were looking for that you didn't fit into?
Honestly, it was when I think about it now, it makes sense to me. Of course, at the moment when you are trying for something and you're getting kind of turned down for things, you always, a certain part of you always thinks, oh, no, I'd be perfect for this role. And then you see who they cast and you're like, no, actually that person makes more sense, So when I came out here, I was, can't tell by Zoom, but I'm 6'5". At the time I was around 240, 250. So young looking face, but I couldn't play a teenager in high school, young looking face, but a 1.5 feet taller than everybody else that you're on screen with doesn't really work.
Captain of the football team. You can't be captain.
Yeah. Center.
Yeah. In real life, that's what I did. I went to Hofstra University, just like you, Jeff.
Oh, nice. Did we talk about that? I don't even remember that.
The reason why we probably never went into depth was that I started at Hofstra, went to Hofstra for 2 semesters. I walked on the football team. I did not apply myself whatsoever. Left with a 0.00 GPA.
Wow.
Then I went to Nassau Community College. So I went backwards. Normally people go to community college first, then they go to the university. I went to the university first and was like, yeah, this is not for me. Went to Nassau Community College, went to Nassau Community College for 5 semesters. Did a little bit better than a 0.00, but literally didn't go to any other classes other than my theater classes or the things that, had my interest.
Yeah.
So that's when I kind of really took a look back and was just like, okay, what do I want to do? What is going to hold my interest? What is my passion? What is it? Because I've never been a huge, even on Open Walkie, you have people like, I was 6 years old and my mom and dad took me to a movie and I knew that's exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to do features. I wanted to do film. Like, I've never really been that person.
Yeah, me either.
And I was going to say, I feel like our industry, regardless of the role, I feel like you have those people who are passion driven and, hey, I knew exactly what I wanted to do and how to get there. And I'm going to do it no matter what, and then you have others who are just like, not really too sure, but they want to pay me for this, so I can do this and learn this. And then you kind of find your way a little bit. And I feel like I've fallen into that category.
Interesting. So wait, so you went into voiceover work. I mean, was this during your college days or afterwards?
No, I never really started actually the audition process until I moved out to LA.
Got it. Okay. So this was before LA.
Yeah.
Okay.
I went to Hofstra, then went to Nassau Community, and then really not applying myself and really not doing anything other than partying, hanging out, being in all their theater productions. And decided, you know what, if I'm going to do it, I should do it. So looked up Groundlings Improvisational Comedy School. I mean, people like Phil Hartman, Lisa Kudrow. I mean, huge. Yeah, essentially half the cast members of SNL have been.
I was about to say, and that's like known for what do you call it? Grooming cast members of SNL. So did you find your way trying to go that way afterwards? I'm sure there's a lot of connects or anything.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot there. And I mean, the competition is supremely fierce there.
Sure.
The 2 hotbeds for kind of improvisational sketch comedy are LA, the Groundlings, and then in Chicago, Second City. Those are the 2. That's like the Harvard and Yale of sketch comedy, essentially. It's those 2 places. You can find your way to sketch comedy or improv comedy through other avenues, absolutely. But those 2 are just head and shoulders above everyone else. Of course, if somebody went somewhere else, they're going to try to argue that, no, it's definitely Acme and, in the West Village, like maybe, but these two have just a huge track record. That's decades long.
So you finished that whole kind of program, and then.
Well, I didn't finish it.
Okay.
Came very close to finishing it. It's much like everything in our industry as a whole. It's extremely political. But I think technically I'm still on the list where I can join level 4, which is fairly elite, but you have to kind of you have to dedicate your life to it if that's what you want to do. There's really no reason to do it if you're not, gonna go all the way with it. And yeah, kind of fell into being out there and being in the audition world and kind of finding voiceover. That's kind of where I kind of found it was almost like voiceover was somewhat of like the misfits of people similar to me, where it's like they were tall, but like I said, I'm 6'5", but I'm not going to get cast as a 7'2" basketball player. I look younger, but I'm also not going to be cast as a high school kid. I'm ethnic in a way, but I'm not going to be cast as someone who's, fresh off the boat. There's this in between kind of area that me and a lot of other voiceover actors kind of fell into that area where we can act it, we can sound like it, we can portray those meanings and feelings and things like that, but we don't look it on camera. And that's where, we kind of all kind of fit in. What
you're mixed race, right?
Correct.
Right.
Half Irish.
Say again?
Half Chinese, half Irish.
Gotcha.
Purebred mixed breed.
Purebred mixed breed. Nice. All right. So then, any notable jobs in voiceover work, or?
So I think my most notable job was I was doing a lot of scratch track. For those that don't know, it's houses or companies will essentially write a radio commercial, and just throw their in-house voices on it, just so they can pitch it to other people, pitch it to companies and say, all right, we want it to be like this, and it's going to be like a really deep, gravelly voice guy, but we're going to get the professional voiceover actor who, makes $1,000 an hour to do it. Don LaFontaine is going to be your movie guy. You're not going to have Corey be the movie guy. Don LaFontaine is going to be in a world where one man,
there's a documentary coming out about him, but
heard.
He's a legend.
Extremely excited about it.
So you did the scratch tracks. Did you land any sort of like spots, campaigns, or anything?
What I did was it was a Polaris commercial for it was Polaris? Yes, it was Polaris. And they ended up using, because I did the scratch track for it, so they can like shop it out to all their local like Polaris dealers all across the country, and ended up, I believe in Tennessee, they ended up using my voice and not casting their own, because they'll, like we hear normal commercials all the time where it's, go to your local Tri-City Toyota today, obviously, or Tri-State Toyota today. California doesn't know what Tri-State is, so over here it's go to your local Southern California Toyota dealer today. That's their guy, so I think Tennessee was just like, yeah, we'll use that guy. And I got a check for like $7,000. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I made it, and as we know, that went like that. And once you get that first check, you're like, oh man, this is it. I made it. It's all uphill from here. And I think that was the last thing that I actually got paid like for other than like my normal scratch track.
Did you do like a Tennessee accent? Did you have to like do like an old cowboy?
No, I believe that it was like super simple. I think it was like blacked out, bad, 2 fists in the wind. Because it was like for Polaris, where you're riding your Polaris 4-wheelers, and like it was like the matte black edition or whatever, and it was just like, you ride it like this because the government just doesn't understand you. And Tennessee was just like, yeah, we'll leave him. And I was like, cool, sweet. but it was nothing ever. But also with voiceover, there's never like, oh yeah, you can YouTube this commercial that I'm like, no, it was like purely radio or, whatever. Like being in the VO world, you never really have, it's very rare that you have something that's like almost tangible in a way. Like obviously the big ones, like an animated feature, of course that's tangible, where it's like people who do like radio scratch track and stuff like that, or radio commercials, like where I studied voiceover, one of the old teachers who used to work there, like he was the one who recorded, he no longer worked there, but he was the one who recorded back in the day, Southwest used to do their whole commercial. And then you just hear, boom, you're now free to move about the country. He was the guy who said, you're now free to move about the country, and literally had a house in Malibu, had a recording studio in his Malibu home, but just that one thing. But for 15, 20 years, it was, boom, you're now free to move about the country.
It's the guy.
And that was the guy, and he, it wasn't like, oh, he won an Emmy, he won an Oscar, he was cast in all these. No, he had 1 3-second line that they used 30,000 times over 15 years.
Forever. Yeah.
Forever.
That's the fucking gig right there.
And that was the dream, that was the dream to, when you, LA wise, you're just like, oh, you can go to different auditions and drive through here and sit in traffic and do this. Or even back then when I was starting, it was like, or you just go to your agent's booth, record, which is 5-10 minutes away, hopefully, if you're lucky, record, go back home, and they can send that wherever they need to, and if they like it, cool. Or if they don't like it, they'll, then they'll bring you to their booth and record different things. But I mean, that was the dream, book one sentence and just get paid residuals for the rest of my life.
Shit, I would love to get paid residuals for the rest of my life for just being like,
same.
Sugar is sweet. Bang. That's my career.
Tell me that sugar isn't sweet, because
exactly. Argue that.
Argue it.
Yeah.
Give this man his money.
Prove me wrong.
Well, you never know when that gig is like going to hit like that, right? You just got to keep doing them until.
No, because the story was for him, and I completely forget, blanking on his name, but for him, that wasn't what he came in to do. Like there was whole copy.
So it wasn't even his even intend to do that.
He didn't even intend to do that. It was just from what I remember, it was like, okay, say like Southwest, flying everywhere.
Sure.
You can say this Southwest, and then it was like give us like the seatbelts, that goes boom, and people, all right, the captain comes on, you're now free to move about the cabin. Just give us you're now free to move about the country, because that's what we do. And that little 3-second throwaway bought this man a couple $1 million home and
well,
for his life.
Yeah.
And paid for his
good. You know what? Good for him. We wish him well. Let's get back to you. Let's see where, let's get back to your hopes and dreams and your money maker. Yeah, come on. He's already made it. Yeah. So then as you were chasing this, auditioning for voiceover work, and then other stuff on screen and stuff like that, you mentioned before, you fell into this industry from voiceover work, or from other things as you were leading up to it?
No, it was actually from voiceover work. I ended up booking a bunch of scratch track stuff for a local production house, because back in the day, there were infomercials were a huge thing. And they had a whole bunch of infomercials that they were doing. And they needed someone just to record scratch track for all they had essentially the D-level Ron Popeil that they were in a contract with, where he had it was called the Maxi Flow. Know what it sounds like? It's not. It was a hairbrush that had a hair dryer in it. So kind of similar to a Flowbee, but didn't cut the hair. Just as you were combing, it would dry your hair and fluff it out. And that was, and because he sold that idea, he had all these other weird little inventions. So this production house kept on needing someone for scratch track. And they were like, you know what? Do you want to work as an office production assistant. And then instead of you drive, because they were like over in like Century City, like over on the west side. So like instead of coming in once every other week to record just scratch track for this whatever random product he has, do you want to just work in our office and then you can just step into the booth whenever we have something? We'd still pay you for that, obviously. But in the meantime, you can be our office production assistant. Because they had a small little like rental house where they had like, like 3 or 4 like little Sony cameras, C-stands, bags, like floppies, stuff like that. I was like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to be going over there anyway. Why would I not want to just, make an extra, at the time, $150 a day? Sure, done. So
this was 150 as an office PA back when?
This was 2005, I'd say. Probably 2005.
I like hearing rates from when they were given to see how little things have moved since then.
That was my
exactly.
2009. 150, 200 was like, whoa, that's a good rate. That's I'm making money now.
200, you're pretty much above the line. Like you can move. You're thinking about buying a house soon.
Yeah, you're thinking, your future. You're rich.
You're rich.
I actually had a PA gig, when I was getting started and stuff back in 2000. I think it was 2002, 2001, and I think the rate was 100. And it was like for a 12-hour day. It was a makeover show or like, something like that. And it was out in Long Island. So I had to drive from, where I was living in Long Island out further toward the Hamptons and stuff on Long Island Expressway. So did that day. And then on the way there was, afraid of being late, speeding a little bit, got pulled over by a cop. And I literally begged him. I was like, sir, I'm going to work. I'm a little late. I was doing, 70 and a 60. And how much is the ticket going to be? He's like, it's going to be $150. I'm like, sir, I'm making $100 today. Like, that's all I'm making. Can you cut me a break? And he didn't cut me a break. So literally worked for free that day at a loss for $50. Dude. So, I mean, 150 is not bad for a rate as an office PA, I think.
I mean, there's stories like that nonstop, especially, I mean, you've lived out here in LA where it's just like New York has alternate side of the street parking, but you pull up in LA and there's no exaggeration, 8 different signs that say no parking except for Tuesdays and Wednesdays. But then it says 2-hour parking Friday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And you're like, wait, what? And you're just like, I'm just going to be 5 minutes. And you come back and, whether you're loading gear or, I just got to drop off these paychecks for these people really quick. So I'm just going to park here, and you come out and you're like, sweet, I got a parking ticket, and that erases today and half of tomorrow. So good times, really, really good times.
I've never been to LA.
What's that?
I've never been to LA.
I know. You know how I know, Rex?
He was waiting for that call. That's why, Rex.
I'm out here.
I know. Well,
but there's always, I got to get out there. Yeah. No, I'm coming out there. Yeah. No, I got to get out there.
I will be out there in a few weeks.
Okay.
Oh, now you have no excuse to not give him a text, dude.
Oh, well, now it's recorded.
He always has an excuse, because here's the deal. When is this going to come out? This might come out in June. And he's like, oh, no, it's a few weeks from now when it airs is what I meant. Yeah.
So you were office PA, $150 a day. And then where did you go from there, though?
And then in true office PA fashion, they were like, oh, yeah, you're the office PA, just file these, these things. And file these things turned into, oh, hey, you should kind of meet, I don't even remember his name, meet Jim, who works in, the rental house section, and, see if he needs any help with anything, which turned into Jim being like, okay, cool. You take all these cameras, you, when they come back in, you clean the lenses, you clean everything. When, the C-stands come in, they're all going to be unorganized. You rack up all the C stands, make sure all the legs are straight. Here's how I lay all my the bags and everything, and here's where the soft cases go. Here's where the hard cases go, and
so became like tech manager for the place.
Essentially came. Once again, you're like, oh, $150 a day for a PA. This is awesome. This is great. And it's like, oh, we're going to get more than the $150 a day out of you. So you're essentially the tech assist manager, but still you're responsible for the stuff in the office. Oh, and also, if we have more, voiceover scratch track stuff, you're going to step into the booth, and maybe while you're in the booth, you learn this thing called Avid while you're there, maybe help, some of the editors out and see if they need anything.
Damn, man.
The guy, the owner of the company, here's how he likes his coffee, and, here's how here's the person that you should go get it for.
Rough. How long did you last at that job, or were you there for longer than you thought you were going to be?
I don't remember exactly how long time-wise I lasted. I lasted enough I remember I did 2 more scratch tracks gigs with them, and they had their first like live production, not live, but first like in-person production that they were putting on in a studio house. And they were like, we're going to put you on that as well. And I was like, okay. So I went on that, met, I'm not even going to say the AD, but the person who was somewhat running the floor there. And they were like, yeah, so here's what's your, totally aging myself. What's your pager number? Because I'm going to be in contact. I need hands. So as soon as that show was gone, they only ran like 2 or 3 weeks, but shot, 4 or 5 days a week. Each day was a different episode. After that, I never went back to that house ever again. I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to stay here, because there's someone like me who, and you'll tell throughout this interview, my attention goes in 9 million different places at the same time. Being on a set and not, used to being in an office, and the most exciting thing was like, oh, the gear's coming in. Okay, cool. I wonder what gear they are bringing back. And to being on a set and being like, oh, there's so many people here and they're doing so many different things. And what's that guy doing? Or, ooh, what's that girl doing? Or, ooh, she's got coffee. Where is that going to? Is that going to a director? Is that going to the executive producer? Oh, it's going to talent. Or all this stuff. I was just kind of enamored with everything that was happening all around me. And, a couple times in my life, I've been in places where I'm like, ooh, this fits really well. And that was 100% one of those places where I was like, ooh, this fits really, really well. And just followed my gut the same way that I followed my gut out to California, and followed my gut and was like, yeah, okay, let's try this production thing and see where this leads to. So.
Okay. So then you kind of went from that kind of all encompassing PA voiceover gig and then moved over into production. So you to another PA gig and then worked your way up, or like what was your first big job?
So that movie review show was I forget the name of the show, but it was like a show. It was like on AMC, and essentially like they would like review new movies that came out. So like to see like actual talent come through, like Billy Bob Thornton was there one day, and he had just done like Bad News Bears or something like that. And I remember seeing him in person and being like, that's Billy Bob Thornton. Like this guy who plays this badass, like character in like pretty much every movie that he does. And I'm like, and he's a 5'7" frail old grandpa. Like it looks like I could just pick him up and throw him somewhere. I'm like, but
you could do that to a lot of people though.
True. But very rarely have I noticed I could do it to celebrities though, Jeff. And it was just like, I was like, wow, this is huge. And there were other like I said, I think it was like 2005 at the time. So there were other like movies and like stars of those movies that were through the doors and stuff. But like, that was kind of the first time that not only did I like see a celebrity, because living in LA, you kind of just run into them like, oh, there's that person, or, oh, there's that guy, standing in line somewhere. But like, I realized that I was working with Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like I'm working with him. Like, yeah, me and Billy Bob Thornton go way back. You know? Like I said, that first production kind of just, I don't know, woke something in me. I was like, this is pretty interesting. So
that's the first time something clicked, I think, right? Other than
for production wise, yeah. Like I said, when I first stepped into a voiceover booth, I think was probably, professionally speaking, one of the only other times that I was like, ooh, this feels like I've been here a million times before, even though it's my first time doing it. And it's kind of the same for production. Like when I was on that first working on the stage, there were so many things going around me, and it was absolutely, you know, just sensory overload. But at the same time, I was just like, oh, this is really cool. Like I'm gonna absorb a lot from being here. You know?
Do you think that's that sort of environment kind of has led you to like being an AD, because you have to be aware of so many different things and your mind is always everywhere?
1000%. I have a lot of analogies and sayings about being an AD, but
let's hear one. Let's hear some wisdom.
Well, here's one. I feel that, you know, and obviously everybody is different. Every person is different. But I feel that ADing is more a personality trait than it is a talent or skill. There are many things, especially the way that I do things. There are many things that you can teach somebody on how to be a good AD, or, you know, or how to be a good camera operator, or how to be a good DP or cinematographer or director. But I think that there's many innate things that make a person better than average at what they do, especially in production. For ADing, I feel that it's a personality trait of mine is always being aware of kind of what's around me, and what was kind of deemed somewhat as a disadvantage of not being able to focus on one thing. You know, like me not being successful in school is because I couldn't necessarily sit at a desk and listen to one person tell me, here's how mitochondria react. And you're just like, And some people can sit there and just write, okay, mitochondria, mitosis. And me, I'm like, what is going, oh, what's that over there? Oh, what's she on the story? What, you know? And it kind of helps me AD wise, where absolutely I can focus and I can be aware of the task at hand, you know, but at the same time, I can be focused on what is lighting doing, what is, you know, lighting doing. What's Art told me it was going to be 15 minutes and I still hear hammers. So they're not done yet, you know? And, you know, production, I know I told them to make sure that lunch had to be ready to serve at 11, but it's 11:01. I haven't heard anything. And I still notice that there's still people moving around and, you know, trying to get things together. It's all of those things where, you know, a director, when I was coming up, he told me, you know, the first time he had me direct House Reality, that he was a helicopter pilot. Like that was his thing. And he said, you know, it's just like driving a car where you're not focusing just on all right, you can only go 50 miles an hour. So no one stares at the speedometer and makes sure it doesn't go over 50 miles an hour. You're looking at the road, you glance down, okay, 55, cool. Someone's coming up on my right. Awesome. I'm going to bring my windows down. It's a little hot. Ooh, what's that over there? I got to make sure I don't hit that. Okay, still 55 miles an hour. Your eyes are always moving on everything until you see something that's out of space. And okay, now this is something that I have to focus more on because this doesn't look good. And I'm sure, Jeff, you do the same thing on, you know, your multi-camera shoots where I know I've worked on sets with upwards of 17 different cameras.
It sounds like you, like for me, when I do that and I'm seeing like upwards of like even like 26 or whatever, like it, for me, my analogy is like I have tunnel vision, but only on this right here, everything what's in front of me. Everything else I'm completely not aware of. It seems like you are like Bradley Cooper's character from like Limitless, where you like see and hear all, and like your vision is like warped, but you're aware of everything.
There are limits, Jeff. That's another good thing about being an AD is that you have to be aware of everything, but also you can't change too much. You know, we're the helping department, assistant directors of a helping department. There's, there's tangible things that you could say. Yes, we make the schedule. What does that mean though? We make the schedule as in the call sheet, as what's on that paper. Great. What does that mean? Have you ever been on a set where it's like, we're going to shoot this from 10 to 11 o'clock and then 11 o'clock comes and nope, cut, we're moving on to the next thing. No, if we still need more there, we're going to go over. So that schedule, although it gives the crew a good idea of, okay, we're going to do this, then we're going to load vans, then we're going to move to here. Now we're going to go over there. There's always got to be wiggle room in that, and I think that a lot of people and think that like, oh, it's this, they make the schedule and this has to be super tight. Even I know ADs that will plan and plan and plan. And the moment something goes off the rails, which newsflash, it's going to happen every single day, they lose it because this is their schedule. No, this is my schedule. You don't understand, Jeff. I know that you want to get the shot, but we have to get this and this has to move. You have to be like water. You just have to.
Reality, reality is the place where things are going to change constantly. Like nothing's going to be the same.
Constantly.
Like schedules mean nothing most of the time.
Yeah.
And you'll have, I've heard it even here on Open Walkie, you'll have ADs who will get personally offended by that. Like, no, this is my schedule. I'm sure, Kelly will say like, I made this, I spent all day yesterday making this schedule for today and you're just going to throw it out the window. Like, why? And she's a very good AD and she realizes that there's a million different minefields that everybody has to walk through of what's actually happening that day. And, actually producers didn't think that they can get this person in, but actually they can come in. So we're going to do that. Or we had this location and at the last minute, this location fell through. So now we're actually going to have to go to the smaller location that's actually further away, whatever it is. And, the more you work in this industry, the more you realize, especially in reality and unscripted, that anything and everything can happen day in and day out. And you have to prepare for that, and that's what. So
that's your personal AD philosophy, because obviously we were saying like, not everybody thinks that way. A lot of people like, take their schedules or like their jobs in a different kind of like, philosophical direction and stuff like that. But that's yours. Yours is the Bruce Lee model, be like water, for instance.
Yeah, it honestly, it really is. It's I've worked with, with plenty of second ADs that, that will, make a schedule for me and they'll be like, I just spoke to this and this isn't going to happen. And, this is going to be, 15 minutes later than we thought it was going to be. And I'm like, okay. It's like, no, Corey, you're not listening. It's going to be 15 minutes later than what we were going to expect it to be. Like, okay.
Right.
I understand that you're upset because you made the schedule and you finally locked it into place and you hit send to the entire crew and you can go, it's done. And now that is thrown away. But there's nothing that you or I can do right now. Obviously, if you're telling me that this thing that we need is going to be 15 minutes later than we expected it to be, let's try to get it here as close to that time as we can. But I'm prepared to move around and put out other fires. Once again, it's one of those.
Well, it's a pretty good philosophy to have, especially if you're in the reality genre where everything kind of changes depending on what the reality is like and stuff. But so when you after you started, it clicked for you to go into production and stuff like that. Like, what was your kind of like what job you think you would say was like your big break that led you to where you are now?
I would probably say working on Biggest Loser. I was the key set of Biggest Loser, and
key set PA.
Yeah, key set PA.
Okay.
Biggest Loser, and before then, I had literally worked in every department other than audio. I worked as being the size that I am. I started out as a regular production PA, and then, like, hey, carry these sandbags, all you PAs carry these sandbags to the backyard, where we're shooting.
Hey, big guy, come over here and carry these sandbags.
And you grab 2, Rags grabs 2, I grab 4. And they're like, and then of course the grips are like, that guy, come here, you're with us now.
Right.
And then it's, working with them, and here's how we set up a stand, and put it this way because, down the weight is going to make it loosen. You put it this way so the weight tightens. And it's like, and
did art department try to recruit you too?
I was recruited by every department.
Just because of your capacity.
Just because of my physical capacity, which in the beginning was amazing, because do I want to be filing things with the production?
Right.
Or do I want to actually be working on like cool stuff and painting? And now that we've painted these flats, hey, Jeff, you and Rags grab one side, Corey's going to grab the other side by himself, and you guys carry this onto the stage.
Why do you assume that me and Rags are the weak ones in this equation here?
We worked out.
Yeah. But, now your subconscious thinking of us.
You know that.
We all carry a stand each. Carry 6 sandbags each.
We will all be recruited by the grip department. Not a problem.
Since the last time you saw me, Corey, I have grown. I'm now
2 inches.
I can tell.
6'2" now.
You probably grew more hair now as well, probably.
Yeah.
You also got better at lying, if I remember correctly. So.
No, all right, whatever, bro. Don't believe me.
What?
You got cats in your background, Rags? Like. Tiger.
Oh, he's got a house. He's got a full house. Sick.
Yeah. Well, actually, this is my girlfriend's apartment. I'm not even at my house.
Oh.
I do have a house.
She's got multiple locations, Jeff. Multiple locations.
Oh yeah.
It's coming up. We're all coming up. So then, what got you into the AD department then? To fast forward a little bit, after trying to be recruited by all the departments.
Got me into the AD department was a gentleman named Andy Nelson. I worked with him on a show in Vegas, where we essentially lived in Vegas. It was a show called Model Employee, where they took, I think it was like 7 models, and they were all vying for the main model gig of MGM. They were going to represent MGM for a year. So
groundbreaking.
Yeah, absolutely. So they had them do all these menial tasks like, oh, you're models, but guess what? Here's where the recycling happens in the basement of MGM Grand. And, oh, you guys are models, but guess what? Here you have to, change. This is what our housekeeping does to clean the rooms after everything. Essentially, it was an 8 or 9 episode commercial for MGM properties in Las Vegas. And working with Andy, personality wise, we just clicked right off the bat, talked about Star Wars on Channel 1, and just made jokes the entire time. And then actually working and doing things, he noticed right away that the things that I thought were possibly a little bit of a problem of like, oh, I worked in grip department for these 2 shows, and then I worked with art department for this 2 shows, and then I worked with camera for these 2 shows. He saw as like, that's great, because now those departments, not well enough to run them as in to be the head of the department, but you have the knowledge of those departments. So when we're asking for things, why a lens swap takes 15 minutes. Why, to relight and key from the complete other side is going to take longer than 5 minutes. To bring these big art pieces in and out is going to be, you can equate that work into time, and that works great for our department. And I was like, oh, I never even thought about it that way. I just, in my head, I was like, oh, I learned this, and now I don't need to know it anymore because I'm not in that department. Like, oh, I know how to swap a lens, but I don't need to know it anymore because I'm not in camera department anymore.
Don't lie. You don't know how to do that.
Are you I'll swap a lens right now.
We should have a competition one day. That should be one of the things that we should do, Rags. One of the things is like, little short competitions within everybody.
Open Walkie Olympics?
Yeah. So that he took you under your wing, and then you kind of like kind of guided you in there? Would you say that he was like a first mentor or something?
Yeah, he was my first. He was one of my first mentors. Him and Fonz Trinidad were, my first real mentors. And he during that show, he was like, "Hey, so I first AD the show called Biggest Loser. I don't know if you've heard of it." And I was like, "Yeah, I've heard of Biggest Loser. It's the biggest thing on television right now." He was like, I'd love for you to come work with me when we're done with this gig in Vegas." And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to." And he brought me on as the key set PA. Because at that point in time, I day played on a whole bunch of different things, both scripted and non. And worked on like Desperate Housewives and like did some feature things and stuff like that, and kind of got swept away with reality or unscripted just because it was paying more money. Like, do I want to be a PA on Desperate Housewives and be on a lockup for 8 hours, or do I want to go first AD something, a travel cooking show where they're going to pay me more? And I chose the unscripted route, which now I'm regretting. But
no, you don't regret it.
I don't. No. That's true. I don't regret it at all, because it's what made me what I am right now.
Yeah, a lot of us. Yeah, a lot of people knock it, but like, and a lot of people's like we've been talking to, and like a lot of my friends too. It's a similar story where it's like we all started out wanting to be in scripted and or commercials and things like that, and just that moment in time in the 2000s where the budgets were bigger and there was so many different shows going on at once that were offering to like fly you around the country, around the world, or things like that. Of course, we went there. You know what I mean? Yeah, and it made us who we are today. So, and landing you here. But what was your first like AD gig? What was the the jump?
I honestly, I don't like I did the show. There was nothing really big and notable. I did a travel show for BBC that they came here to do. It was I forget the name of it. It was a traveling cooking show where they took a team of like British chefs and they were traveling against a team of American chefs. And I convinced production to let me be the AD because Neil deGroot was directing.
How'd you convince him? What was your pitch?
Instead of paying me daily, you can just put me on a weekly and don't worry about my overtime.
Some money.
Yeah. And they were like, okay. I was like, yeah, just put me on a weekly. Just put me on a weekly. You don't have to worry about overtime and meal penalties and stuff like that with me. Just put me on a weekly. I'll get a standard check every week and I'll be your AD. And they're like, okay. And this was the first time that I'd seen a production actually willing to spend the money because it was BBC. So they were,
sure.
The exchange rate was different. And they were like, yeah, sure. I literally saw they had to print out all the releases because we traveled to, I think, 14 different states. They had to print out all the releases for everyone for the whole run. So this kid came back from like Kinko's and was like, went to the production manager and was like, yeah, I printed out the 700 copies of the releases. And it was like $10,000 for on your credit card. And the production manager was like, okay, thank you. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? You just spent 10 grand on releases, printing it out, like, and it was fine. And I was like, oh, this is a different animal than what I've been used to. Yeah. So I first did that, and Neil is actually the one who brought me on that Vegas show, and that Andy, because Neil directed Biggest Loser as well. So Neil brought me on the Vegas show, and then Andy brought me from that Vegas show onto Biggest Loser.
Biggest Loser as an AD or
as a key set PA? As
a key set PA. Got it. Okay, nice.
And then working with Andy and seeing how a union reality unscripted set was run was completely just mind blowing. You're like, oh, this is where it's at.
Legit.
I kind of equate it to, having a sports background growing up, when you think you're the top dog in high school, and you're like, bro, I'm the best, no one can beat me. And then you move on to college and you're like, oh, this is different. And then from college, you go to the pros and you're like, well, hold on a second. This is way, way different.
World.
And, obviously nothing against the people that I've worked with and the people who still currently work in, unscripted, non-union reality, 14, 15-hour days. Like, they don't get meal breaks and things like that. But I've noticed just a change in the way that the professionalism, not necessarily the capabilities of people, but like just the professionalism of the way things are run and the way things are done and the way things are executed just takes leaps and bounds,
And you're in the DGA now.
Correct.
What show was that you made that leap?
I was, so I kind of got fast tracked. I worked with a second AD on Biggest Loser, and I was non-union, and Loser is a union show. And she was asked by her agent because they were filming a show called Comedians Crashing Couches with Nikki Glazer for Comedy Central. And the premise of the show was it's unscripted, but it's essentially scripted. It's Nikki Glazer is a stand-up comedian, if you don't know who she is, and she is essentially going to crash on the couch of these like normal LA kids to see what it's like. And the production was saying, we're trying to get a first AD, but all these union first ADs are 50, 60-year-old white guys. And like, this is, I think at the time she was like 25, 26-year-old Nikki Glazer, beautiful stand-up comedian who's going to be crashing on the couch with like young, hip LA kids who are also in their 20s. We don't want a 60-year-old white guy running the set. Do you know of anybody who's under the age of 40 who is fun and funny and can relate to these kids? And she was like, I have the perfect person, and gave me a call. And she was like, there's this movie, sorry, not movie. There's the show that's shooting, and don't worry about DGA. And I was like, well, what do you mean don't worry about it? She's like, well, it's Guild, but don't worry about it. They're going to take care of it. And I was like, what do you mean they're going to take care of it?
Yeah.
She's like, no, they're going to put you in the union. I was like, oh, for real?
Nice.
She's like, yeah. So, and Nicholas Gustin was the director. He directed Grandma's Boy and like big in the like the Adam Sandler world. And yeah, it was an absolutely amazing experience, like being with that, where it was reality, but also it was just fun, and I was kind of brought on because of who I was, which, circling back to, the voiceover and acting stuff where like, I didn't really have a point that like, I found like, oh, this is me. They want me. So that's what's going to happen. It's no, we want someone like you, but we're going to go this way. This was the complete opposite of no. We want you, and we're going to put you in a union for your services. So
nice. Bet that felt good, especially not having to pay that fee.
Absolutely. That felt amazing. Nice. How much that fee is.
Yeah.
And it got me into the union as an associate director. And for those that don't know, the DGA is unlike any other union where there's two sides of it. There's, scripted side and there's unscripted side. And unscripted side isn't just, reality cooking shows. Unscripted side is reality cooking shows and travel, survival shows, and also red carpet events and live production and
talk shows.
And it's all encompassing. And, obviously that's a conversation you and I will have offline, but the Guild doesn't necessarily recognize, oh, you are a first AD for competition reality shows. This is what we can do for you. It's just, is this a feature that's scripted? No, cool. You're an associate director. So, that's why there's the title difference of, are you the first AD? Yes, I'm the first AD for the show that we're working on, but technically in my Guild, I'm an associate director. And is Or, is that your second AD? Yes, that's my second AD, but technically in the guild, they are a stage manager.
Right. It's still that old school, like kind of hierarchy labeling and stuff like that. But yeah, they lump them in very generals. But well, I mean, that's good. I mean, at least you're in there. And but after, so you've gotten into there and stuff like that. What are you working on right now?
Now I am doing a career reset.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
So you asked, in the pre-show questionnaire, like you asked, what have I been working on and what I've been doing? And the honest answer is I've been PAing. And I've been PAing on features and scripted stuff. And I just did the reshoots for the Barbie movie. I just wrapped about a 2-month-long feature for Netflix coming out next Christmas, starring Jennifer Garner and Ed Helms, called Family Leave as of right now. I've been making the move from non-scripted to scripted, and mainly because of life situations. When I was younger, as many people on this podcast have told you, like being a freelancer, you have a go bag by the door. Hey, it's Wednesday. Can you be at JFK or LAX or LaGuardia tomorrow? There's going to be a ticket there for you. We're going to fly you out to Jamaica or New Jersey or Minnesota or Prague, and we're going to shoot a show. And when I was younger, when I was single, and that was an amazing life that I loved. I've worked in 45 of the 50 states and actually met people, and mainly because of reality television, and met absolute, case in point, amazing friends, lifelong friends that, we won't see each other for 5-10 years. And even seeing each other's faces on Zoom is like, oh man, I miss you so much. How have you been? And in reality, like maybe we've only been face to face for a month, 2 months, 3 months, but those bonds are super strong, and I wouldn't give that up for anything in the world. But I want to.
But you kind of are.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to stay in LA. I mean, one of the last reality shows that I worked on, Rags was actually a member of, Fortune and Fire. We
were just talking about that.
Yeah.
That was the last time I think I saw you in person. Was that day play I did?
Totally. And we went to a bar with Natoli and I think Chris, right?
Probably. Yeah.
I think I texted you. I was like, "Where are you?" Like, "Oh, I'm over here. Where are you guys?"
Nice.
Yeah. That was the last reality show I did, and
so what prompted your change of careers is because of like less travel? You wanted to more work-life balance or something like that, or like you just wanted you just going into scripted just because?
Wanted a little of column A, a little of column B, a little of column C, but first and foremost, I wanted a work-life balance, and I wanted a life. Super long story, turn quick for Fortune and Fire. Like I said, Fonz is one of my mentors. So anytime that he would call me, I'm going, no matter what. I worked on Fortune and Fire, and I proposed to my then girlfriend, now wife. Proposed to her on December 25th, and got on a plane January 17th, I believe, and didn't come back until August. And Rags knows because I slept on his couch during that entire time. At the time it was, proposed, we like went and saw a couple venues, and I'm going to go to New York to do this show for 3 months, and then I'll come back. And, it was for everyone in New York, it was the dream. That 3 months turned into 5, that 5 months turned into 6, that 6 months turned into 7.5, that 7.5 turned, and you're like, time out, it was a beast. And, from the production side, it was, instead of, all right, we're going to end this season and start a new season, if we just keep extending and shooting more episodes, we can just keep doing that. And also, talent can't renegotiate contracts because it's technically still season 4. just season 4 has 57 episodes in it.
And that's great if it's a local gig for you, but like,
and you know, of all the conversations that we had when you and I were living together, Rags, that was what we talked about, you know, is that if I lived in New York, that's the dream, to work on a 3-month gig that turns into 9, which turns into, if I'm not mistaken, Forged is still running, correct?
But they are currently shooting. Yeah.
Jesus. Wow.
That's the dream, you know, but as someone who is living 3,000 miles away from their then fiance,
Not ideal.
and I literally proposed, and then I expected to be engaged for 18 months, and you know, and was going to get married. But I proposed, got on a plane like 2 weeks later, and now I only expected to be engaged once in my life, and for half of that time, I was 3,000 miles away, you know, and in a different time zone.
Right.
And, you know, and again, as I said, I lived with Rag. So, you know, calling my fiance every single night and, you know, talking, because we have that kind of relationship, you know, like talking every single night. And, you know, and she's like, oh, you know, and this has happened and this happened. And I'm like, yeah, it's 11:30 and we have a 7 a.m. call time, which means Rags and I have to leave at like 5:45 to get there on set. And I'm the first, so I have to be there on time, you know, and it's like, it's just rough, you know. It was rough.
Oh, well, how's the experience of being starting? I mean, would you call it starting over in scripted? How's the experience now compared to then?
Time-wise, amazing. You know, I live in LA. I'm 5 minutes away from CBS Radford Studios. I'm 15 minutes away from Warner Brothers. You know, Fox is here. Like Paramount is like, I live in all these studios, and I was traveling away to work, you know, and part of my brain was just like, that's what we have to do. And another part of my brain was like, yeah, but why? There's studios right there. Like, oh no, it's different. I work in reality. I work in unscripted. I do this, like, and I would have these conversations with myself of like, okay, but why don't you work right here?
Yeah, right.
This is you moved to Los Angeles to do something, you know, and you're living and you're working in Los Angeles. Why am I flying back to New York to work on stuff? Why am I going to Atlanta to work on stuff? Why am I going like
that explains a lot, and that's like that explains on why I haven't been able to get you on as an AD for the past like 2 years.
And it's been hard, you know. There's no decision in life that, you know, that's important that's made easily, you know.
Right.
And it's extremely difficult. And I've said, you know, there's been moments in my life where I have to make tough decisions. We all do. We all have to make tough decisions. And, you know, you guys have discussed it on this podcast, and you've discussed it, you know, off camera as well, where it's just like, whether you were a PA and now you're finally gotten enough gigs as an AC and you're working as an AC, and someone says, hey, I need a van driver. Are you available? No, I'm not available because I'm an AC now, you know, and that's really tough, because you and I both know as soon as you make that distinction, I'm not a PA anymore, I'm an AC, your AC work's going to slow up a little bit just to test you out. That's the way the world is. Yeah. You know, it's the same way from AC to operator, or from PA to, you know, to second to second. Hey, I know you're a first AD, but I need a second. Can you second? Yeah, no, you know. Damn. There are certain people that I'll do, you know, that you can do that for, but it's
clearly I'm not the one. So yeah, who are those guys? I've been calling you for 2 years for jobs.
Jeff, as much as I love you, I love my life a lot more.
Fair enough.
Do not take that offensively.
Then the next show in LA, I'll give you a call, because I've been calling you for like stuff in like Thailand and other places.
It's not like, oh, hey, Corey, can you work in Atlanta? It's no, Corey, can you work in Thailand? Can you work? And I'm like, oh.
Or like Mexico and stuff. But you know, next time it's in LA. So wait, how's the you'd say like the environment or the experience is like, I don't know, it's like it's worth it, you say, for the work-life balance for one. But then like, do you have like a trajectory? Like where do you see what's your next goal then?
I do. My next goal is to get my days as to go into scripted, to be a second for scripted.
Okay, so the AD route, but in scripted too. Okay, nice.
And the same thing that we talked about, where Andy saw as a bonus for me knowing different departments, and the things that I've come to learn make me a good AD. I think that I'm a great AD. Obviously, everyone is going to have their own opinion about things, and different people's personalities might not mesh. I think I'm a great AD, and this is why. Because I know different departments, and because I understand departments, and I love the communication between different departments. It is also the same thing that makes me a really good scripted PA.
Well, I have a question then, because was it difficult, or did you find it hard or impossible to make a lateral movement? Because, obviously the three of us know, and, our main genre is looked on a little bit, down from other scripted or commercials even and stuff. I even feel it, in some, when I'm in guild meetings and stuff like that, where people are naming. I was in a situation where people were naming the shows that got them into the guild, and they're going around the rooms oh yeah, I AD for Saturday Night Live, or I worked on Chicago Med, or I worked on Hawaii 5-0, and all these different ADs and directors, and it gets all the way to me, and I'm just yeah, Jersey Shore. The room was I'm hey.
Because I've been in similar situations like that, especially like you said, making not even a lateral move. I'm making a step down. Any person that's been on open Walkie that has openly said, yeah, I'm PAing right now. It just,
Well, it's, that's not knocking it. It's very admirable to especially when you have a plan and stuff. But did it not did you find it hard? My question is, did you find it hard to, or if anything, to try to make a lateral move? Even as an associate director, because DGA into,
it's very difficult with Guild to make a lateral move. And to be completely honest, I don't necessarily want to make a lateral move. I want to earn my stripes.
Nice, dude.
More importantly, I want to make my connections. It's, that's kind of what I dealt with originally. Hey, we want you to first AD Comedians Crashing Couches. It's union. Don't worry. We're going to put you in the union. You're going to be a union as first AD. Awesome. This is amazing. That's the dream, right? I'm now a union first AD. Do I have any union directors that want me as their first AD? No. Do I have any union, EPs that want me as their first AD? No. So that was the gift, but it didn't take me anywhere. When you're not union, you just want to be union. If I get union, I'm gonna work all the time, and I'm gonna be making this mansion, I'm gonna have health insurance, and I'm gonna do this. Cool. Who do you know? No one. So the people who I came up with literally 15 years ago in the scripted world, everything is cyclical. They're all second ADs, first ADs, directors, and working on The Mandalorian, working on, huge features for Netflix, working on the Barbie movie, working on these huge things where it's just oh man, we used to sit on a lockup together and check out 150 background together, and now you are running quote unquote legit Hollywood movie sets. This is amazing,
and that's where you want to head. And
that's where I want to go. And, but to kind of answer your story of, you sit in a room and, there's all these name drops of these shows and these features and these things. And, I only worked on Jersey Shore. First of all, it depends on what room you're in. Because if you say you worked on Jersey Shore, you can have a whole bunch of people like me I've done these 17 Food Network shows that you've never heard of. And then I did this one that you heard of, but I was a set PA on, you were on Jersey Shore, which was a worldwide phenomenon. And guess what? 20 years later, Tan, it still is. Right.
Well, that's why I was I'm not very proud of that as well, but of course, but it's just it's always funny to see faces, especially in certain rooms when, especially when you're, everybody in that room is trying to be their own, scripted auteur, you know what I mean? Or some sort of it's a different world for sure. So that's why I was curious and stuff.
for me, like I hate the attitude that a lot of people have, especially in the scripted world. But also I love the attitude that people have, especially in the scripted world, because I get to shatter that, like.
Right. It's a really good opportunity. Yeah.
Like, trust me, on the sets that I've been working on, they call me grandpa. I'm a 42-year-old guy who's working as a PA, on these scripted big feature things. And they're like, oh, that, of course it's jokingly, they call me grandpa because it's 25-year-old kids, that are essentially, they can be my children, and I'm working in the same department, same level as them. But when the second is like, hey, Corey, can you grab these 50 BG, paint them into the scene, give them all directions, and then also watch out for, the Ukraine that's going to come through, make sure that they are good, do all these, and do all these things. Hey, I'm going to give you a contact. You cue our talent when they're going to come through. And can you also do this and do that, and list 17 other different things? And I go, yeah. And then these 25-year-old kids are like, whoa, what are we going to do? And I'm like,
she'll be like, don't worry about it. Listen to grandpa right here.
And that's exactly what I say, where it's just like, oh, what have you worked on? They're like, oh, we worked on this Scorsese thing. We worked on this. And like, well, what have you done? I'm like, oh, reality stuff. And, like, and then as a PA, I can run a set. Let your talent speak for itself.
Right. And how long do you think, personally you could, because obviously we've been through that in similar fashion earlier in our careers, where, like you said, you were part of this like company that you were doing voiceovers, tech, PA, things like that. And they were definitely milking you for your price. How long do you, are you planning to like keep that going for a little bit? I understand you're trying to make your, connections, and everybody takes one for the team and everything, blah, blah, blah. But that's honestly, for as long as I can, because the more eyes that I'm in front of, I'm confident enough in my skills on set that the more eyes that I'm in front of, the better it is for me. Honestly, I feel comfortable on every set that I've ever been on, and whether it be a one camera docu shoot where it's just me and a shooter producer, or whether it be 250 person crew, and I know who everybody is and what they're doing to a certain extent, and can help kind of give ideas and estimates and things like that, where are they getting more than what they're paying for with me? Absolutely. But guess what, it's going to come around. There's going to come a time where I'm going to be getting more on my end. Yeah, it'll come around as long as you're putting the investment. No, that's great, man. That's very admirable. And also, like, your career change and the reasoning why you're doing it is very like admirable too. A lot of people in general would let their ego get in the way of like saying like, yeah, I'm already here. I'm not going to go down to be a PA just to change it up. And that's actually what holds people back from a lot of potential career opportunities or going after what they really want. So good for you, buddy.
Thank you. And honestly, in life opportunities too, is like, I wouldn't be able to do any of this without my wife, Kristen. I mean, she's an absolute,
shout out to Kristen.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to Kristen. She can probably hear me downstairs, but for sure. Like it's just as we all know, whether your significant other is in the industry or not, they have to make sacrifices, she's a casting manager, so she's in the industry, and we've all heard the story, like, gosh, she knows I'm going to be on the road for 6 months. Like, cool. Does that work for you guys? If it does, awesome. For me personally, it's not going to work. I can't be on the road for 6 months and be away from her. There are plenty of couples that we know that, hey, she's a line producer and he's, a DP, and they're flying, crisscrossing each other. They might wave when they're flying from New York to LA, and if it works for them, awesome. But off the record, I'm sure we know a lot of couples where they think it works and it doesn't really work at all, because he's in a bar in New York while she's at home with the baby in LA, or she's at a bar in Seattle while he's, back with the kids in Atlanta, or, whatever it is. Like, yeah. For us personally, we need to be together, at least in the same city. Like,
at least what it takes to make your relationship work, and you're very honest with that, and you're very honest with yourself as well. So good for you, man. getting close to the end of our time together, but got any like interesting stories? Even if you want to, anything that you've so far in your new career as a PA or even as an AD before in reality?
No interesting stories. I mean, I think.
Well, then we're done.
Okay,
Great.
cool.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bam. We have a lot of interesting stories. I feel that every time we step on set, there's interesting stories and there's interesting things. And I mean, honestly, if I could just leave with that, like that's enjoy everything that we do. What in life and on set, like what we get to do for a living that people will pay us for. We can, bitch and complain about the rates aren't good and this isn't, and this can be better. And I don't believe that second meal was pizza again, or I don't believe that they even have to make a second meal. This is stupid. Like we get to work in an absolutely amazing industry I've met some of the closest friends through this industry. I've met some of the most creative and hardworking individuals that I ever dreamed of meeting in my entire life. We work in an industry which I personally feel like has been more at the forefront of being accepting, whether it be, sexual orientation, age, race, creed, whatever it is. And it's just phenomenal. It's really based on how hard are you willing to work, and how much talent and creativity do you have, or are you searching to find? And this, I feel like in our industry, much like myself, there's a lot of misfits that, we thought we wanted to do this, but we ended up doing that. If you, like I said before, if you saw a movie at 4 years old and you knew that you wanted to be, a cinematographer and that's your dream and you're going after it, kudos to you. And that's amazing. I don't think that that's the case for a lot of people in our industry. I feel like a lot of people are bouncing around and we get the opportunity to bounce around and make amazingly creative things that, not to sound too stupid, but change the world, like we do. And, does it change the world, in a huge way? No, but, we put these things on that take people away from reality for a little bit. And sometimes now more than ever, you need to just a second to breathe. And,
it's escapism.
Escape. At the beginning of the pandemic, Jeff, my wife and I watched Jersey Shore.
The old ones, not the new ones.
The original ones, and we were just like, we're stuck inside. What are we going to do? Let's watch Jersey Shore. Oh my God, this is amazing. And, did it quote unquote change the world and make it a better place in the truly altruistic, artistic fashion? No, but it's something that's created that wasn't there before, and it's there. And if you get enjoyment out of it, that's great.
Yeah, it's great. What we have, what we do in, where the genre that we work in is definitely great in that sort of sense. Rags, you have any last questions? I have 2 last questions, but if Rags, you have anything else before we end it? No, you're good? All right. So I have 2 questions. Last, to finish it up, if Corey could just keep this under 60 seconds. So if there's for those kids that you work with or anybody trying to get in the business, like any advice from a veteran such as yourself? Rapid fire, go.
Be like water and be a sponge. I know it's been said a million times before. Keep your ego out of it as much as you can, and just absorb everything that you possibly can. Ask questions always. Don't assume that ask questions, and just learn.
Nice. And since you're like, you're transitioning, or you transitioned out of like the genre that we all met in and stuff like that, is there something that you miss about it?
The craziness. You would like my AD analogy. So I've always viewed ADs as kind of like the lion tamer in the middle, and the lions are just crazy and going everywhere. And I miss the adrenaline rush of being in the pit of a cooking reality show, and there's 7 people cooking things and 7 cameras and audio and everything. And I'm sitting in the eye of the storm while everything crazy goes on around me, and knowing exactly what everybody is doing. I miss the craziness of it, but also I don't miss the craziness of it. I enjoy the new, like, organized, kind of a little bit quieter life that scripted has.
It's a little more structured.
Way more structure, but I mean, you're always going to miss the madness of reality.
It was a nice time, but now you're moving on to bigger and better things. And it seems like you have a plan and stuff. But
definitely moving on.
Nice. I thought you were going to say you missed us most instead of the craziness, but we'll take that answer. But I appreciate it, man.
Start over again.
It's unedited. So, anyways, but dude, thanks a lot for the time. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks so much. Right. Really appreciate it. Missed both of your faces a lot.
Likewise, man. Good luck. I mean, is there, if there's anything else, like, just send it to us, like, if you want us to plug anything, or like, Instagram, website, and things like that. But other than that, I'm going to cut, and bye, everybody.
Thanks.